I didn't know Malbolgia was giving martial arts lessons. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys Spawn, Ninja Spawn. Who hides behind the blood-red mask of this wraith-like assassin? Could it be Al Simmons or an unexplained swordsman and a new player in the game? Designed with ultra articulation with up to 22 moving parts for a full range of posing and play. We're going to have some stuff to talk about with this silent stalker. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did actually make this review possible by sending over the Ninja Spawn that we could have a look at in this video. Grabbing the tape measure just to see how tall the figure stands. We're going to start first with inches. Ninja Spawn stands 6 3/4 of an inch tall, or he's 17 centimeters in height. Seeing as it's been a while since we brought this one in, let's slide over Ninja Spawn and compare him along with Gunslinger Spawn. Quite a difference in size. What I do like about this line, first of all, to the credit, is all the sculpts are unique to one another. Even though it is really still Spawn, not only are their costumes different from one another, but also their heights. Ninja Spawn is quite a lot shorter than Gunslinger Spawn. I think I just also like to say Gunslinger Spawn. For the accessories that come included with Ninja Spawn, like Gunslinger we looked at earlier, the figure comes included with a display stand. Unique to this line in the sense that they actually do print Spawn down below. I do wish at some point still that they could actually do this in green. The white still works well, but I think the green would just pop. I don't know why I was going to do a snap when I was going to describe that. One singular peg, though, that's going to attach to either side, either one of them, it's up to you which one you'd like to use, to the undersides of the feet of Ninja Spawn. Really ideal if you want to put him in some pretty cool looking poses. And move that to the side. The figure also comes included with some swords. Katanas first that we'll have a look at. The katanas and the other swords are done using a softer plastic, so the blades themselves, though more of a gunmetal gray, are actually fairly flexible. The handles and guard in this case are done more in a chestnut brown, and they seem to be identical to one another. There is a little bit also detailing just below the guard, but because it's actually painted or done in the same silver, it's very, very hard to actually make out that there's additional detailing down below here. Now, these can't obviously fit into either one of his hands. He doesn't have any other swappable hands available, so we're going to put those to the side for a second. We're going to come back to those. The figure also comes included with these Scimitar Swords. What's strange about this is I don't tend to think Scimitar Swords when I think of a ninja. Still, though, the figure comes included with these really aggressive-looking blades. What's nice about them, certainly, first of all, is the fact that the blades are different from one another. You can see, like, this one has a little additional notch near to the end of the tip of the actual sword. But they also have some really interesting carving that they've done to the actual plastic here. You can see some really interesting scroll work that they've actually put into the blade of the scimitar. Strange, again, that it's going to be coming included with the Ninja Spawn, but still I like the idea that they came included with swords like this. Now, in this case, actually in both cases, really, if you take the figure and you spin it around, located on the back is a removable scabbard. I don't know why it's necessarily removable. I guess if you wanted to, you could just leave it off completely. It does leave, though, behind a very noticeable hole. So we're going to go ahead and just plug this. Probably one of the reasons also why they had this removable, the only guess that I can also come up with is the fact that because they've slotted the scabbard the way that they have, it's going to be a little harder to kind of get the swords in there. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they make the scabbard removable, so you can actually get the blades in there. Now, they've slotted, as you can see, hopefully you can see, at the side of the scabbard, there's a slot. It's open. It's like a hot dog bun. Not that I would ever be using a comparison to a hot dog bun, but it's also slotted on this side too. What you can do is you can take the katana blades, for example, and slide them in. Now, sometimes while you are doing this, as I just did just now, the blades sometimes do fall out because that slot is there open. And again, you can do the exact same thing. Take the katana and slide it in, making sure, of course, it's not going to fall out the front of the hot dog bun. Hot dog bun. I can't remember the last time I've actually had a decent hot dog. Once those are in place, then you can go ahead and just attach that onto the back. Now, that's one way you can go about doing this. Technically, I suppose the scabbard is more designed for the scimitars, but you can also certainly use it for the katanas as well. I'm going to slot and pull those out. If you take the scimitars, though, what they do is you basically just find, of course, the right way to put them in. want to make sure I've got it the right way. And again, these just slot in place. Now, in this case, I'm actually more interested, I think, the idea of actually just kind of pushing it down the hot dog bun and doing the exact same thing on the other side. Comparing things to the hot dog buns. Did I have it going the right way? I don't think I had it going the right way. And again, that just sort of more doesn't slide necessarily. And I mean, you could try to slide it into the scabbard, but every time I seem to do it, it always seems to, actually, you know what, that worked a little bit better this time. And then once those are in place, you can go ahead then and take the scabbard and attach it onto the back. Just be careful. You want to move the rag, the back of his mask. Just move that out of the way. And you can have that as a way to display this. I kind of actually like the look of it more with the scimitar swords. But to be all honest, I kind of also like the idea of having the scimitars in his hands too. Decisions, decisions, decisions. By the way, there is, once you decide on which swords you want to actually slot in the back, there is no other place where you can actually take, like the katanas, for example. There's no place anywhere on his body where you can slot those. So you could really have one of them, one pair of them at least in the hands, and then the other pair in the back of the scabbard. All that, talking about hot dog buns and trying to slide those into place. Put those to the side, and getting a closer look now at Ninja Spawn will involve me having to spin this around. I gotta say, first of all, I like the head sculpt. The coloring is really quite good. For what little face we actually do get a chance to see here with Ninja Spawn, I gotta say, like, the green eyes do glow really nicely. This is quite effectively done by the fact that they've actually darkened the areas around the eyes. I'm trying not to get my fingers in the way of things. He does have a symbol certainly on the front of his mask, and that's symboling this, not quite the same symbols, but similar type symbols also come down the front skirting that he has here too. Kind of also like the way that this is slightly folded in. Getting ahead of myself. But for certainly the head sculpt, it is nicely handled here. You can certainly understand and really see how this would have been wrapped around his face. And again, like this comes to the back here, you've got this extra little tail, so to speak, of the material that comes out from the back. It's not really quite the same color, but it's close enough. It's not certainly a deal breaker at all. His outfit isn't quite what we're used to seeing, certainly with the Spawn. He's got, for example, like these shoulders that go over top of his existing suit. The shoulders do have these nice little spikes that stick out that actually do get a little bit of a chance to get some paint going on here. I mean, if not for that and the ninja stars or shurikens down the side here, there really isn't a lot of paint happening on the top. It's not to dispute the fact that this hasn't been painted, but I do think that they probably could have added a little more of a darker wash, because there's such good sculpt happening here that I feel like some of it just gets lost by the fact that there's no contrasting colors. You really need to add some dark in order to make those features, the sculpting, stand out. I do like the coloring though, and the color works well both on the top of his torso, but it's also the same color that he has also in these gauntlet blades, or gauntlet guards here. He also has it also on the front of his belt, which showcases a really interesting, it almost looks like something from Motorhead. It's really cool looking skull. It's been painted in a very bright chrome silver. And it's the same matching color that he actually has with some throwing darts that he has also to the side of his belt too. Like, he's well equipped, really. I mean, he has the shurikens, he has the little throwing darts, and then he's got, of course, well, that's not really a weapon. I'm sure he could probably use it as a weapon. And then he's also got these spikes also on his other guard there too. Now, there's aspects to the figure where I feel like paint got left off. Now, if we look at the hand, for example, he has spikes there, and he also has a guard across it. But unfortunately, it never got painted. This one doesn't have it, so you can easily write that one off that it didn't necessarily need it either. But there's other areas too that I've noticed on the figure, and more importantly, it comes to his feet. The feet are also getting the guard that covers over the front of the toes or the front of the foot. And it does also have spikes. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't have paint. I would imagine it probably would be the same similar paint as that brown that they would have used in all the other areas of his body. But unfortunately, it got left off. And it doesn't bother me so much as when we're looking at the hands. Yeah, I notice it's there, but I seem to notice it a lot more when it comes to his feet, just because I know it's supposed to be probably a continuation of the brown. I kind of wish it could have been painted in. I mean, the feet are nicely sculpted, but the paint, unfortunately, being left off like this, I mean, it stands more out like a sore thumb, or in this case, I guess, a sore foot. But the paint for where they've put it actually is good. He's got little straps there across the front of his thigh. He's got a slightly smaller one closer to his knee. These are all sculpted, by the way, into the costuming. And then, of course, he's got the more familiar Spawn suit underneath this, although you can't really look at it, because this, of course, this piece is over top of it. For the articulation on Ninja Spawn, so his head's going to be on a ball joint, but it's not on a ball joint where you would expect it to be, which is likely up here. Instead, the articulation is further down at the bottom of the neck, and I certainly can understand why. For the way they've sculpted this, if you were to go ahead and for all intents and purposes, for example, if you were to make the cut right here and you made this a separate piece, well, it would have broken up all the sculpting of the wraps that he has around his neck and around his face. I mean, you get just as much really technically articulation as you would if it was also in his head. So it doesn't bother me at all the fact that there's only articulation at the base of his neck. You can still move the head back and forth this way. You can rotate it still all the way around, although you're going to be really careful of this. And then, of course, just got to make sure I don't actually clip that. And again, like you have all still the same articulation. It's just a little bit lower down on the neck. That's all. The arms do come out in the same way as all the other Spawn figures we've looked at before. I guess beyond the point really of a 90-degree angle bend. You can take the arms and rotate them forward and back. The figure does have a bicep swivel right there. The figure does have a double hinge on the elbow right there and there. And the figure also has just standard articulation in the wrist where you can rotate it all the way around and hinging it back and forth. Upper torso is on a ball joint. The lower torso, though concealed behind the Motorhead logo, it does seriously look like Motorhead. There's also a secondary ball joint at the base where the abdomen is. You can rotate that all the way around as well. Legs do split out. Nothing get in the way of those. Even though he does have the skirting on the front and the back, I mean, it's nowhere near the vicinity of wanting to get in the way of the thighs. So you can easily move the legs out. You can give him this would be a case where you may want to even give a figure like this the splits. And luckily, Ninja Spawn can do that. You can bring the legs forward and back. There's a mild swivel at the top, more just the way it's been assembled. There's a double hinge on the knee. There's no articulation here on the guards on the front of his calves. There's nothing you can actually swivel here. It's actually sculpted to the rest of the lower leg. But the figure does have hinges on his feet, and you can also rock it back and forth, and the figure also does have toe articulation. So he has it all where it counts. A bit, again, disappointed the fact he didn't have the paint right here, and right here. But he has the paint everywhere else, and at least that's something. The figure has some decent articulation, as one would expect, certainly when it comes to Spawn figures. And he has some pretty cool-looking accessories, too. Though I would still debate the idea of actually displaying a ninja with a scimitar sword, but still, it's a pretty cool-looking sword, and likely the way I'm going to be displaying the figure on my shelf. The one thing I've always really liked about Spawn is it's not always been Al Simmons, and he's not always worn that same classic suit. Over the years, different people have taken up the mantle of Spawn, and judging by the time frame in which that person was the Spawn would also dictate the type of costuming that person would be wearing as well. Case in point, for example, Ninja Spawn. It's still enough of Spawn that you recognize the character right away, but you can definitely see there's something very, very different to the way that he is designed. Instead of relying on the chains and the long cape, he actually has wrapped up around his face a very similar kind of fashion to the cape that he wears. The cape normally would wrap around and kind of engulf Al Simmons' body, but in this case, you've got the wrappings wrapping around his face. Still gives you a chance to see those glowing green eyes. I gotta say, like, those eyes painted the way that they have really do pop on this figure. For what little actually face that you can actually see on the figure. And of course, let's talk about the accessories that the figure comes included with. 2 sets of swords, the katanas and the scimitars. And though I really would question whether a scimitar would belong with the ninja, I gotta say the look does work well, rather nice, not only in his hands, but also in the scabbard located on the back of his torso. I actually did finally fix the swords. I know I didn't really put them in the right way during the review. I fixed that. And you know, honestly, the way that the scimitars right now sit on the back of his torso, it does make for a little extra volume. Not only on the back, but also in the front. When you're looking at the figure, you can kind of see like the scimitar blades sticking out the sides. I might stick to the idea of the scimitars being on the back of his torso and put the more easier to swipe katanas in his hands instead. What do you guys think of Ninja Spawn? Let me know down below in the comments section whether you picked the figure up for yourself or just based on this review. Also, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys. They did provide this sample of Ninja Spawn that we could have a look at in this video. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit it with a like? If you're loving the content that you're seeing and certainly want to stick around for more, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and sort of shimmy your way over to the bell notification and make sure you turn that on so you're always going to get those reminders every single time a new video posts. Because while we have wrapped up right now, because he's got the wrappings around his face after all, while we have wrapped up the review right now of Ninja Spawn, there will be other Spawn and other McFarlane toy reviews coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.